It wasn't a long movie, but it was a good...
About an hour, 51 minutes.
Yeah, so, and this is what I was saying before.
That's the 80s. They basically went to 2 hours. Well, if it hit 2 hours, okay. If it went over maybe 5-10 minutes, no problem.
But it was very rare that a movie went over 2 hours.
I think maybe the couple of movies that went over 2 hours back in the 80s was Ragtime, Reds. That was about it, maybe, give or take.
And I think some people lost the, like, when we were discussing about, like, the movie runtimes and everything being too long. Like, people wanted to try, we're talking in the comments about, no, movies have always been that long. Look back at, like, Gone with the Wind and all. It's like...
That's 1939.
And also, there was an intermission.
Yes.
If you were to see that in the theaters back then, there was an actual intermission, just like if it was a stage production, where you could get up, go to the bathroom, get snacks, go have a cigarette break, because it was okay to smoke back then.
Yep.
Yeah. So you were doing all of these things back then because they had lobbies. They weren't showing like...
Let's go on.
But also the movies, they didn't have... These theaters weren't showing as many movies back then as they are now. You know,
Well, actually, if you look...
They weren't a multiplex.
No, they weren't a multiplex. I always remember my mother and my aunt and uncles always going on Saturday.
Yeah.
A nickel, they'd go at 12, they'd see a couple of cartoon shorts.
Yep.
A movie, and that was it.
Yeah.
And they got out of it by 4 o'clock.
Yeah, but the movies back then really were, like, if you saw it in a theater, the theater had maybe 3-4 different screens. It wasn't one where it's like, you've got 4 showings of one single movie just starting at staggered times. And then you have 4 different other movies playing all in the same row.
That only started in 77 with... I think it started with Jaws and Star Wars.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that was it.
But that's the thing.
That was back
when
then.
the movie theaters have expanded over time. So
multiplexes and all that.
Yeah. So you've got so many options. But like people have pointed out in the comments on the TikTok shorts and stuff, which I appreciate. Once again, everyone who's doing that, you know, pointing out the fact that, you know what, you can see the movies at home in a controlled environment. I agree completely with that one. I don't like going to the movie theaters anymore where I have to go and have a bunch of kids pulling out their cell phones, or even grown adults pulling out their cell phones.
Smelling the theater of Ben Gay.
Yeah, or smelling somebody's feet because they take their shoes off during the once they get there. You know, I go back to going and seeing It Part 1 in the theaters, and I knew I was going to have problems when the couple that sat down right next to me, guy's girlfriend goes, she put the seats start to recline, her feet are up, she's got her camera out, and she's already taken a picture of her feet in the screen. Now, I'm sorry, but I already know this is not this is going to be a rough movie-going experience. And it's a shame, really, because the decorum of the movie theaters isn't the same. Where Alamo Drafthouse, I've been to the one on Staten Island,
yes,
and they will make sure that everything is silent. They will bring you like your popcorn and everything and your food to you. They make it an enjoyable experience, and they try to make it as respectful as possible. So unfortunately, where some of them have had to go on strike is a shame, and I feel for them. And I support them because, especially if a union is striking, there's a reason why a union is striking. So it's a shame, but